Hello, I'm Lauren Sánchez, and today I'm going to tell you about the darkest period of my life. But before I tell this story, if you love stories of strong women, please don't forget to hit the like button, because this is the story of a woman who never gave up. When I married Jeff Bezos, I thought I was simply joining my life with one of the world's most powerful men. But there was something I never took into account: MacKenzie Scott's revenge. And the details of this revenge campaign will shock you. When I first heard her name, MacKenzie Scott was just Jeff's ex-wife, co-founder of Amazon, a very intelligent writer, mother of 4 children. They had even handled their divorce process like mature people, or so I thought. The reality was very different. What I'm going to tell you in this story is so incredible that you'll probably think it's a movie script, but every word is true. If you've had similar experiences, please share in the comments. Know that you're not alone. The beginning of the attack. At that time, the love between Jeff and me had become a topic the whole world was talking about. The media constantly followed us, analyzing our every move. I was used to this. I came from the television world after all, but I never anticipated MacKenzie's reaction. The first sign was the sudden change in Jeff's children's behavior. The children who had gotten along well with me before suddenly became like enemies overnight. Especially the eldest son, Preston. Even the way he looked at me had changed. "What's going on, Jeff?" I asked, and he was puzzled too. "I don't know, Lauren. I have no idea what they talk about with MacKenzie." But I knew. As a mother, I sensed that there must be some manipulation behind such a sudden change in the children, and I was right. The second sign was more frightening. Strange comments started appearing on my social media accounts. It was like a coordinated attack. Similar messages from thousands of accounts, all using the same phrases, all sharing the same fake news. Gold digger Lauren, family wrecker Lauren, fake pilot Lauren. It was obvious that there was a professional team behind this campaign, because most of these accounts looked like bot accounts. But who was financing them? I would learn the answer very soon. If this video is adding value to you, don't forget to subscribe now. Because in the next part, the methods MacKenzie used will become even more sinister. Leaking of confidential information. The third sign really scared me. My private jet flight records had been leaked to the media. Not just the records, but they had been completely misinterpreted. My routine business trips were presented as luxury vacations. My participation in charity events was promoted as money-wasting shows. Only the FAA and a very limited number of people could access this information. Someone had used very serious connections to obtain my private information and serve it to the media. Jeff was very angry about this situation. "This is impossible, Lauren. Whoever leaked this information has committed a federal crime." That night, alone at home, I thought, who was MacKenzie Scott really? Just Jeff's ex-wife, or much more? When I started investigating, what I discovered shocked me. MacKenzie wasn't just a writer. She was also the head of one of the world's largest philanthropic organizations. She controlled billions of dollars. And with this money, she had built an incredible network of influence. Her connections in media companies, her relationships with political figures, her influence in civil society organizations. MacKenzie Scott wasn't just a rich woman. She was someone with real power. And now she was using all of this power to destroy me. Fake news campaign. The first major attack came regarding my pilot background. Suddenly, flight accidents that had never happened in the past started appearing in the media, completely fabricated news, but they were prepared so professionally that they looked real. Lauren Sánchez's secret accident records, Lauren with controversial pilot license, FAA investigation about Lauren Sánchez. All of these news were lies, but they found such wide coverage in the media that they began to be perceived as if they were real. At this point, I'm curious in the comments. Have you ever faced fake news about yourself in the media? Jeff's legal team took action. "This is complete slander, Lauren. We'll take each one to court." But I now understood the magnitude of the game. These weren't just random slanders. This was a very carefully planned character assassination campaign. Social isolation tactic. The real shock, however, was in the behavior of my old friends. Television producers I had worked with for years, colleagues I had supported in my piloting career, even old school friends started distancing themselves from me. "Why?" I asked, and most gave the same answer. "Lauren, you might be right, but right now there's too much negativity around you. We also need to think about our own careers." This was MacKenzie's intelligence. She wasn't attacking me directly. She was slowly dissolving the social network around me. She was alienating people from me, isolating me. The real blow, however, came from the business world. The media projects I'd been working on for years started being cancelled one by one. Television producers were stopping our projects under the pretext of budget constraints. But the real reason was different. MacKenzie's philanthropic organization was making large donations to these companies. And for these donations to continue, they were advised not to work with me. This was a very smart move. Legally, there was no problem. MacKenzie wasn't threatening anyone. She was just choosing where she wanted to give her money. And these choices were enough to destroy my career. If you're affected by this story and have had similar experiences, write "strong woman" in the comments. This way, we can support each other. Manipulation of Jeff. One night, I told Jeff everything. "This can't be a coincidence, Jeff. MacKenzie is trying to systematically destroy me." Jeff initially didn't want to believe it. "Lauren, I know MacKenzie. She doesn't do things like this." The MacKenzie you knew was the MacKenzie who was married to you. Now you're facing someone completely different. The next day, Jeff decided to talk to MacKenzie. But this conversation made the situation even worse. MacKenzie had given Jeff a very clear message. "Lauren ended our marriage. Now she's ruining my life too. I'm just protecting myself." This was a complete lie. MacKenzie's life wasn't ruined. On the contrary, she had become stronger after the divorce. But she had presented this lie so convincingly that even Jeff was confused. "Lauren, maybe you're exaggerating a bit. MacKenzie is just in a defensive position." This hurt me a lot. Even the person closest to me was starting to fall for MacKenzie's manipulation. Using children as weapons. One of MacKenzie's most sinister tactics was using Jeff's children. Now the children were openly hostile toward me, especially Preston, who said this to me at a dinner. "Lauren, my mum doesn't like you at all, and don't expect us to like you either." This was very painful. I loved these children very much. I had built good relationships with them, but MacKenzie was using them as weapons against me too. Jeff got very angry at this situation. "Preston, you can't talk to Lauren like that." "Why not? Mom is telling the truth. Lauren is a family wrecker." This conversation greatly affected Jeff, because these words clearly came from MacKenzie's mouth. She was now using the children as her propaganda tool too. If this video inspires you, now is the perfect time to subscribe, because in the next part of the story, I also go on the counterattack. Private surveillance and monitoring. The next morning, I learned how far MacKenzie's attacks had gone. Security expert Marcus Rivera had called me. "Lauren, there's an urgent situation. MacKenzie's team is watching your house." "What do you mean?" "She's hired private detectives. They're tracking your daily routine, taking photos, recording videos." This was really scary. I wasn't even safe in my own home anymore. "What's the purpose of this?" "Most likely trying to catch you in compromising positions. She can distort any moment of yours and use it against you." This showed how far MacKenzie had gone. It was no longer just a media war. She was starting to interfere with my personal life. The beginning of the counterattack. At this point, I decided I would never give up. I set up my own research team. I needed to prove what MacKenzie was doing. I hired private detective Marcus Rivera. I employed cybersecurity expert Eleanor Thompson. I included Sarah Mitchell in the team for media analysis. Our first discovery was about social media bots. Eleanor's analysis proved that there was a professional bot network behind the attacks directed at me, and the funding for this network came from a company connected to MacKenzie's philanthropic organization. "This is solid evidence, Lauren," Eleanor said, "but it's difficult to catch her legally because she's built such a layered structure to protect herself." Our second discovery was more shocking. Marcus Rivera had learned that MacKenzie was having private meetings with my old friends. In these meetings, she was saying negative things about me, alienating people from me. "How did she do this?" I asked. "She used a very clever method. She organizes charity events and invites your friends to these events. During the event, in conversation, she shares her concerns about you." Jeff's distancing. MacKenzie's manipulations had become so effective that even Jeff started distancing himself from me. One day he said to me, "Lauren, maybe we need to take a break for a while. My children are being affected too much by this situation." This shocked me so much that I couldn't find words. "Jeff, if we give up now, MacKenzie will win, and it will never end." But Jeff had made his decision. This was my darkest period. MacKenzie had reached her biggest goal. She had managed to distance Jeff from me. I'm curious in the comments, have you ever experienced the fear of losing someone you love? If anyone knows this feeling, you can write, "I understand." The children's rebellion. But MacKenzie had made a mistake. While manipulating her own children, she had gone too far. Jeff's children were starting to get uncomfortable with MacKenzie's toxic behavior. Especially the oldest daughter, Emma, had noticed her mother's obsession. One day, Emma had called me. "Lauren, I don't recognize my mum anymore. She constantly talks about you. This isn't normal." This was MacKenzie's Achilles heel. Even her own children were questioning her behavior. With Emma's support, I explained the real situation to Jeff. I showed how MacKenzie manipulated the children, using them as propaganda tools. Jeff finally saw the truth. MacKenzie has gone too far. She's harming her own children. The final confrontation. This was the breaking point. Jeff now decided to stand up to MacKenzie. We had a final meeting with MacKenzie together. In this meeting, Jeff gave her a very clear message. "MacKenzie, you will stop these attacks on Lauren. Otherwise, I will take legal steps regarding the children's custody." MacKenzie was very surprised. She didn't expect Jeff to be so determined. "Jeff, I'm just protecting myself and the children." "No, MacKenzie, you're taking revenge. And this revenge is harming our children." Savoring Victory. After the meeting, MacKenzie backed down. Social media attacks decreased. Negative news in the media stopped. Companies that had cancelled my business projects slowly started returning. But the real change was in the children. As MacKenzie's toxic influence decreased, the children started behaving normally. Even Preston apologized. "Lauren, Mum turned us against you. That wasn't right." Today, there's an uneasy peace between MacKenzie and me. She's still in Jeff's life as the mother of the children, but she's no longer trying to destroy me. Lessons to be learned from the story. I learned a lot from this war. Most importantly, how long-term plans toxic people can make. MacKenzie's campaign was an organized operation that lasted for months. I also learned that there's always a risk of powerful people abusing their power. MacKenzie's money and influence made her almost untouchable. But the most important thing I learned was that you should never give up. MacKenzie did everything she could to destroy me, but I fought back by resisting, struggling, and telling the truth. And in the end, I won. Not just this war, but Jeff's heart too. Because during this process, Jeff saw MacKenzie's true face, and he understood how strong I was. Final message. I'm sharing this story with you because maybe you also have MacKenzies in your life. People who try to harm you, who abuse their power. Fighting against these people isn't easy, but it's possible. With the right strategies, patience, and determination, you can win these wars. The most important thing is to remember that you're never alone. Just as I had Jeff, you also have people who will stand by you. If this story gave you strength, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss similar strong women's stories. Because I prepare new, inspiring stories for you every week. Remember, no one can prevent you from living the life you dream of. Toxic people like MacKenzie can create difficulties for you, but they can't stop you. I wasn't stopped. You won't be stopped either. Write in the comments what topics you want me to make videos about. See you in the next video.